Hey, what's up, Giants fans? Welcome to another episode of Giants Talk. I'm Cole Kuiper here with Giants insider Alex Pavlovic. The second half of the year has begun. Alex and I are going to preview what the Giants need to do to right this ship, at least in the best version possible. Plus, we've got all-star game discussion and memories, questions from listeners, preview of the next series, and much more. Before we get started, Giants Talk is presented by Mancini's Sleep World. Get moving towards better sleep at Mancini Sleep World. We guarantee the best price and free next day delivery at Mancini Sleep World. Stop by or visit sleepworld.com to see what's currently available. All right, Alex, before we get to all the all-star fun, I think it would best behoove us to think big picture, zoom out, and look at the second half as a whole.
Second half is starting. We made it.
We finally made
it more than halfway.
It's with the way the first half has gone, and I know this has been me as a broken record over the last year now, but I really feel like it can't get much worse. Like the schedule doesn't look bad. The expectations are practically non-existent. We're looking towards the future. I have to imagine I'm going to enjoy this second half a little bit more.
I think last time we said that they almost got no hit like 2 days later, but yeah, we keep thinking has to head in the right direction at some point.
Yep, that's the thing about baseball, right? There's really no such thing as a true rock bottom because it can always get worse. But hey, statistically, it can also get better.
I think we won't do the schedule, but it just, as we look at what's happening in the second half, a lot of it is going to, I think, inherently just make it better. Like it's, just one thing that we'll touch on here. But young guys just kind of make things easier to take because you're not, you're not as worried about the mistakes, and you're it's easier to celebrate the highs with them.
That's just the complete lack of win now or playoff expectations is going to reflavor what we're looking for here for the next few months. Just looking at player development, looking at, interesting reasons to support the team, accolades, milestones, individual memories. It's kind of like we're Rockies fans or someone else right now. This is what they do season in and season out.
It's house money in the second half.
Yes.
Starting with, this will be my story for Thursday, like second half preview. 5 things we want to see in the second half. Number 1 for me is easy, and it's, it's the thing we are going to talk about for the next 2 weeks and 4 days, whatever.
Yeah.
2 weeks, however many days. Yeah. 2 weeks, and it's August. 2 weeks and change. Nail the trade deadline. They are in a spot that I haven't been in recent years, which is there is no apologies. Somebody said it's a mailbag question about like what would it take to, I don't know if buy was the term they used, but go and get like a reliever or something. And it was a couple weeks ago, and I saw it this morning as I was going through things. I'm like, well, that's, they haven't had the record since this mailbag question got sent. But it's very cut and dry this time. There's no wait until the last week like last year, and last year they hoped to buy, and all of a sudden they can't even get a guy on base against the Pirates and Mets, and they end up selling. Or previous years, 2019 we talk about a lot, when Alex Dickerson fueled that run and Farhan went, I won't trade Bumgarner, even though we have some good deals lined up. I won't trade Will Smith. This is very cut and dry. They've been a seller for basically the entire season if you look at their record, and I don't know that anything can change starting on July 17th that would change any opinion of this group, short of winning every game the rest of July. So,
all right, undefeated watch has begun.
They are very clearly sellers. They have 2 guys who are check every box when you talk about at this time of year, veterans who are performing well, who fill holes for other teams, who are free agents at the end of the year, and Robbie Ray and Luis Arias. So they have some other pieces. And also in an interesting way, like we'll get to Seattle at the way end of this. They're very mediocre, and they're the 3rd wildcard team, and the whole American League is like that. So there's not a lot of teams in the current position the Giants are in where they're going to be purely getting calls about selling in the next 2 weeks plus change. So they should do pretty well in this market. And this is a really, really important trade deadline. And we also know exactly what they need. They need upper levels pitching. They need, the Boyd Tidwells of the world to come into their system. That's going to be the whole thing. It's everything we talk about for the next 2.5 weeks. And I also think the next 2 months after that, a lot of that is going to be, okay, who just got here? Who's, can we see this guy? You just got this pitcher in the Luis Arias trade. Are we going to see him in September or whatever? Things like that. So very easy for me. Number one here, got to nail the trade deadline.
Obviously, we're going to talk so much more about the trade deadline, including what is on the table, who are the best players to move beyond the obvious ones. Is it like everything that's not nailed down situation? But one question I have for you as a beat writer is, this kind of selling situation is so different than the buying situation for someone who covers the team, because when you're buying, there's obvious candidates on both sides, both to trade and to acquire. But in a selling situation, it's much more AAA guys, AA guys who are kind of on the margins that might not be as obvious to a writer or someone who covers the team on the other side of the country. So how do you approach a deadline like this?
Try not to BS people, which is it's really easy to look at like other farm systems and go like, go get that. And it's a good point you make. I think, literally just, and people will do this. I know people will get engagement by putting fake trades out there and all this. Like
the number one prospect for so-and-so.
Just wait. We'll see what 2 or 3 guys come back in each of these deals, and we will have all the time in the world to evaluate them afterwards.
Yeah.
And dig in them. But
I appreciate your honesty, Alex.
I hate fake trades. None of them are ever anywhere close to what actually happens. In baseball, it's just hard. It's hard. You're often talking about like a 19-year-old A-ball pitcher who
exactly.
Like, we love this guy. He's the 7th best prospect in Cleveland's organization. We love him or whatever. It's interesting. There's no, there's been past years. I was thinking back to 2021 where everyone's just like, what's the big move going to be? And there's a lot of buzz around Chris Bryant beforehand. And then it's like, oh, they actually did it. And this is such a cut and dry. We've been talking for 6 weeks, 2 months about Luis Arias. He's answering questions at the All-Star game about, I'm probably going to be traded. I really want to play second base after the deadline. So this is such a cut and dry deadline, and it's an interesting one. I've talked to Giants officials about this, as late as like last week, like during the draft, and they're like, everyone is in draft mode, but it's going to flip next week. So I think that started already, and I think, the calls are really going to start over the next week or two, and it's pure sell.
All right. I'm excited to see how this plays out. Let's get to number 2 on your list here.
Start building your 2027 pitching staff. And I say pitching staff because most people would say bullpen. I still think we have some questions about the rotation, and Landon will be there. He's shown enough. It's been inconsistent for him in the first half. I think you'd like to see a little more consistency, but he'll be there. I don't know yet what they have in Trevor McDonald. We've seen some really, really high highs and some really low lows. So I think he'll keep running out there. And, part of it is we've had this discussion of like, why didn't they just throw McDonald in there instead of sign Mahle and Hauser? And that's a big part of the second half is not just with him, but with Carson Wisenhunt as well. Like whenever they get him back here and they'll throw him out there every 5 days, figure out, is Carson 100% part of your mix for 2027? Is he in the 5th starter group? Is he waiting in the wings? Or do you not feel that way about him? So I think that's really important. But the most important thing, obviously, is finding candidates for the bullpen, figuring out who's – look, one, we're going to see who's still here on August 3rd. But because I think any of these guys really could be traded. But figuring out, who is Keaton Winn? I've liked what I've seen when they've used him correctly. Caleb Killian's been awesome outside of the 9th inning. So who is Caleb Killian? Which one of the lefties do you trust? Is Eric Miller part of this going forward? Dylan Smith has been really intriguing at times, but it's a very small sample there. So not just those guys, but I also think you go down to AAA and like a Blade Tidwell who looked like Rob Ned the first game of spring training and now is being stretched out as a starter. I'm curious to see, do we see him? Does he get a shot at this? But they need to figure out who's sticking in the rotation going into the offseason and how many holes there are in the rotation, because as much as we talked about Jackson Flora last podcast, he won't be there on opening day next year or anywhere close. And then they need to figure out who's in that bullpen. And, this is truly like, I think this is like an extended spring training for the next 2 months. Like
Exactly.
who do you trust going into the offseason and how many guys can you lock into spots?
And what a few names that keep rattling around in my head, just because I have such a isolated attention span that when someone's on the IL for an extended amount of time, they like stop existing to me. But there's a handful of pitchers who we didn't see at all or much this year who will be returning at some point next year that have to be factored in as well. Birdsong, Rodriguez, Witt.
Good point. I'm halfway through my coffee and forgot we haven't seen Jason Foley in the big leagues yet, but we're about to. I don't know what's going to happen with Piguero. I mean, the hamstring seems like it's going to ruin his entire year, but it would be nice if they could get him out there the last 2-3 weeks of September and see. And then, Birdsong, Rodriguez, I put in a different category of just like, I've seen enough. I trust him. I don't know if he's a closer, but I trust him next year. But they really need to kind of figure out, because I think there was a little bit of ambiguity going into last offseason of what they had in some of these guys and a lot of faith in guys in the bullpen and maybe a lack of faith in guys in the rotation. And it led to this weird offseason where you're like, we had this conversation all the time. Like they could go get 1 starter or they could get 3 starters. They could go get 4 relievers or 5. Now they went and got 2. But that is, I think that is really important to throw guys in those spots. And the other thing we've learned with somebody like Killian is that the 9th inning is just different. And like, let's see what Dylan Smith has when you throw him in the 8th or the 9th and see like how he fits in there. Not that he's a future closer necessarily, but just like, where does he fit going down the line?
Yeah. All right. Number 3 on your list for things to accomplish in the second half.
You know what we never talk about here really is the outfield. We talk so much about Casey Schmidt getting him back on the dirt.
Talked about the outfield a lot heading into the season. Oh, such a log jam. There's not space for anyone. And then the space issue just became infield.
Yeah. So we talked so much about that and getting Casey back on the dirt. They have had 6 outfielders, including Casey, get 50 plate appearances. 6 guys get 50 plate appearances in the outfield.
Wow.
In the first half. And you could alternately sit there and say you're set. Like you have Jung-Hoo Lee and you have Elliot Ramos and you've Harrison Bader signed for another year, or Drew Gilbert, or whatever you want to do. Or you put Jung-Hoo in center and put Barracoto in the corner. Or you could sit there and go, you have no idea what this group actually is. I fall in the latter camp. I don't know what this group actually is. Jung-Hoo was an excellent story in the first half. I think you're pretty well positioned there. I think he should stick in right field moving forward. But beyond that, like we've talked about how Ramos is a potential trade candidate. I do think Ramos and Barracoto pretty much the same dude. And when you have Jung-Hoo Lee in right field, I wouldn't want to move him back to center to play both those guys. So need to figure that out. And then Gilbert, Jonah Cox in center. Who are they? Who's your center fielder going forward?
Yeah.
Where's Harrison Bader? He's been rehabbing.
Exactly.
But is he part of this going into next year? Are you counting on him at all going into next year? Or is this the Tom Murphy situation? So I do think there's a lot to figure out there. And the other part of this is Bo Davidson, as first reported by my friend Justice De Los Santos, and I've heard it as well, is he's headed to AAA because Dakota Jordan's headed to AA. So Bo is going to be an option, maybe to get a September call-up, and he's going to be a real option next spring, and they need to figure out where he fits in as well. So I think they kind of just need to figure out what they have in this group and figure out who they need to trade, if anybody, and who's your center fielder going forward, and how does Bo fit in? And it's just kind of a jumbled mix. It's not as clean as when we talk about you trade Arias, you move Casey Schmidt to second. You're probably, pretty lined up next year on the
Yeah.
infield.
Yeah. All right. It feels like it's been years or at least a year and a half of Giants just having unlimited quadruple A outfielders that could be interchangeably slotted in as needed. And having something a little more solidified than that would be great, because that clearly didn't pan out as a long-term strategy.
It's also really weird to be talking about the Giants having homegrown outfield options.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, what, Bo's been really good in Double A. And how does he fit into this mix with Elliot Ramos, who's homegrown, and Victor Barracoto, who's homegrown? I like Parks Harbor. He's played a lot of outfield in Double A this year. So, yeah, it's a nice problem, but I do think they kind of need to figure out a depth chart a little bit, because right now it literally, like, Tony didn't play Barracoto for 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden he was the hottest name in the ballpark for 2 weeks. So they kind of need to figure out who these guys are.
Yeah. All right. What do you got for number 4 on your list?
I'm going to go to what I just said about Davidson and Harbor and guys like this. And it was an excellent first half for their farm system. They were moving into top 10s even before the draft, which by all accounts they did pretty well. And Jackson Flora, the best pitcher available. And so they're winning everywhere at every level. A lot of success individually. So keep that going, and let's see how good this year can be for the farm system, because that's at least something to. We don't know how many losses the big league group's going to end up with, but that is at least a real bright spot in the first half, and it headed forward. All those guys I mentioned, Keelan, Jordan, Davidson, Harbor, had good first half. Joshua Gonzalez and Luis Hernandez, they're shooting up top 100 lists, and we're going to see one, if not both of them, in San Jose by the end of the year. I think that could happen in a few weeks here. And then Johnny Level, who's been unbelievable and continues to hit in Eugene. We'll see what the rest of his year looks like, but really promising year for the farm, and it'll be a lot easier, I think, for Giants fans to feel good about what's coming if that continues in the second half, and if they get some of these guys, if Keelan, for instance, hits the ground running in Double A, and you can start to envision 2027 being realistic for him. Mm-hmm. It'll make it easier, I think, for people to have a good off season.
Yeah. Once these, just the thought of Bo Davidson being that close, that we're talking about him like this, and knowing some of these guys like Keelan are even in the conversation for 2027, really takes the sting of a season like this and makes it not quite as painful. We've talked so long about the future being bright, and then you're going to blink and the future is going to be now.
Yeah. And I also think, to like a roster building perspective, part of the issue is they felt they had to fill some of these holes. Like if Jonah Cox did what he did this year, if he did that last year, I don't think they go get Harrison Bader, because you feel like he's there. And if Bo Davidson were a little closer, and this is nobody's fault, this is just, he's the natural process for him, they don't go spend that money on Harrison Bader, and maybe that money is spent on a relief pitcher. And if Gavin Keelan feels like he's close, as great as Arias has been, you don't need to go spend that money on the infield. So it would be nice going into the offseason if they felt like they could fill whatever holes pop up next year internally, which they haven't been able to do much in recent years.
Yeah. All right. And your final topic on the list of things the Giants need to accomplish in the second half is?
I'll put this politely. No more shenanigans. Just stay out of the headlines. Don't go viral. It gave us a lot to talk about. I also think it didn't make it an easier first half for your fans to have to, constantly be thinking about off-field stuff. I know internally, for players, for executives, for staff members, just added an extra layer of stress to what was a bad first half anyway. So just stay out of the headlines. Stay away from anything that could be controversial, one way or another. So I think let's just have a normal second half focused on baseball.
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to see wacky celebrations that are controversial. I don't want to see fights on social media with people if you're a player. Let's just take the level down a bit and stay out of the spotlight when you're one of the worst teams in the league. It's one thing if you're one of the best, then do whatever you want. But fans don't need to be defending these guys in the trenches for off-field stuff.
It was just a long first half in every way. So, everyone chill out a little bit.
I like that. Let's lower the temperature. All right. Yeah. Alex's list of things the Giants need to accomplish in the second half. Nail the trade deadline. Start looking at the next year's pitching staff. Figure out the outfield. Keep the minor league momentum going. And no more shenanigans.
No more shenanigans.
With that, let's take it to a quick discussion, recap, review of this year's MLB All-Star Game in Philadelphia. Obviously, since we last spoke, we got the Home Run Derby and the All-Star Game, both of which, were disappointing in their own specific ways. Let's start with the Home Run Derby. We talked about how they're going back to a new format that is reminiscent of the formats of old that we grew up with. Overall, fantastic there.
Yeah, I love the Derby. I love the new format. The end was awesome. This is one of my baselines for things like this is like if you're watching with your family, and like my wife really got into the end there. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of explaining to her how it worked, and it's like I think they made it, really intriguing. You say disappointing. I think I wish we could. I'm going to sound like an old guy here, a boomer.
I assume I'm going to have the same take. Let's hear it.
Just give me two cameras, and like I would love Chris Berman. It doesn't have to be Chris Berman, but like sometimes I'm like give me two cameras and Chris Berman on the mic, and I'm good to go.
Yes. It's really not a complicated production setup. People want to see where the home run is going. If it's going to go out, they want to see that shot that looks just like the in-game shot when a pitcher throws to home plate. They don't need the close-ups. They don't need that many cutaways like that. I think we were pretty down on Netflix during the opening day broadcast, and this is just another Netflix flop.
I mean, it was nice to see Logan. I didn't need to see him 17 times in a row. Down at the end there when they were showing. And I also felt like, I don't know if like they're showing distance in one place and then they're showing it in another place. It felt like around later, there was like the little thing on the right-hand side of the screen that was, and then my biggest problem was I think Junior Caminero hit a homer to end his round there.
Oh, you're calling that a...
He thought he did as well. And I'm like, can we at least get a replay of it down the line? So I think we're just overcomplicating everything. We just want to see, this is like the most simple, like we're cavemen. We just want to see long home runs. And I don't need, it's great. Like some of our friends are there, Hunter, he was there, he was getting into it. Mm-hmm. There was like 17 people on the broadcast, and like, we just need 3 or 2, whatever.
And none of them were Chris Berman. Yeah, it really should be in all of sports, even more so than the slam dunk contest, maybe about on par with the 3-point contest. Something that is so by the book, it works so simply. The more bells and whistles, the more complications you put on this, the worse the product gets. That being said, the format did salvage it for me. And it was great. I really didn't like the way it was before where, when is the pitcher allowed to start? They're on their next pitch. It's just cramming as many as possible into a timed window.
At some point we lost track of like the numbers. Like if you told me the winner under the old format had 23 or 63, I wouldn't be able, I'd guess 23, but like you could tell me something like 63 right. And I'd go, okay, I guess they're just, format was great.
I will say in my memory though, watching like those just slug fests when I was a child in that era, it feels like it was 63.
Yeah, it does. I hope they keep this format. It sounds like, people liked it because this isn't necessarily, I love that ballpark because of the food, best press box food in baseball. It's not a ballpark that lends itself to monster home runs.
Yeah.
But we think 2 years from now they're going to be at Oracle, and
Mm-hmm.
I forgot who has next year's game. But like some of these ballparks, that is why you and I grew up on the Fenway one, because there's a Green Monster, and
Yeah.
so if there's a McCovey Cove and they have this format where you're watching guys hit it like deep into the cove, as opposed to just trying to hit a home run every 3 seconds, it'll work well.
Yeah, until we're getting close-ups from the GoPros attached to each kayak and cutting away 1,000 times to that. Simplify it. Come on, guys.
Simplify it. Wrigley Field next year. See, that's great. You can aim for buildings.
Oh, yeah. I love that. Oh, the parties on some of those rooftops are going to be obscene.
Obscenely priced, probably.
All right. Let's get a quick mailbag question in here before we move on to the All-Star game. Levi asks, chances Bryce Eldridge or any other Giants players get into the home run derby? Now, I don't know if this was intended for this year's or just in general down the future. We're going to address it as far as the future. I think with 2028 likely potentially on the horizon for Oracle Park, that seems like a great Eldridge splash hit, set it up right there.
Yeah, I mean, they're tying it to the Olympics, but I also think regardless, like, you're not going to plan for 2 separate spots. So it seems like pretty locked in. I know the Giants feel pretty good about 2028, and I would say better than 50% odds. Haven't asked him this, but that Bryce Eldridge is in that derby, because he's going to be hometown. He certainly fits the profile. He might actually, should actually be an all-star by that point, potentially. And I'm sure he wants to do it. So yeah. I think we are going to, I bet good money we're going to see him in that 28 derby.
Is there anyone else, whether on the way or just who has sneaky batting practice home runs, who you could see putting on a show and something like that?
Chapman's sneaky in batting practice. I would assume all the veterans, if they haven't done it already, they don't want to do it or won't be in the mix. The guy I would like to see down the line is Dakota Jordan. Like, he has that kind of power, but might be a little quick for him in 28. But if he becomes an actual like big league starter, that's one thing we see every year. Some of these young guys they mixed in there, and maybe he'd get a shot. Like the Ben Rice is doing the derby. I know he's hit a lot of home runs, but something like that. So, but I think Bryce is a real easy choice for 2 years from now.
Yeah, love it. Love it. All right, let's talk All-Star game then. Once again, what feels like just story of our life over the past decade, the AL takes home the All-Star trophy, this time in a 3-hit shutout of the National League. Just rough performance all around from our NL guys. But our Giants guys, also rough performance all around. Nothing from Logan Webb, did not appear as expected. And then Luis Arias goes down swinging in his one at bat.
Was that his worst swing of the year?
It certainly could be. I mean,
I think it was.
For the batting average guy to be going down on a pitch like that.
Yeah, this was, I don't have much to say about it. This was a dud.
Yeah.
Pitching has gotten too good in the All-Star game, and then we don't even see some of the best pitching. So, yeah.
You know what? We need to go back to the tried and true tradition of the All-Star pitchers need to be pitching hungover. It really leveled the playing field for everyone.
I don't even know. You'd always have the one guy where you're like, feels like that guy partied last night.
Yeah. Flu-like symptoms? Really?
Sometimes a Giant. Yeah, I don't even know what the answer is here. Just, we get good ones every once in a while, but it seems like this has become a little bit of the norm for the All-Star game.
Yeah, absolutely. We already mentioned next year, or not next year, 2028 is rumored, is likely, is potentially going to be held at Oracle Park. And that would be as part of a extended, almost 2-week break held in tandem with the Olympics, which baseball would be back in. So I guess how that supposedly would work would be San Francisco for the Home Run Derby All-Star game, and then immediately fly down to LA for the Olympics.
Yeah, I mean, Olympics would be all at Dodger Stadium, so that'd be a lot of fun. And maybe we get you in the Cove, maybe?
Oh, I would absolutely be
out there. Yeah. Well, hopefully it happened. I think the odds are very good. Giants are very prepared for this to happen.
Okay.
So Yeah, I think this is happening.
Fantastic. Well, since we had such a dud of an all-star game this year, I thought it'd be fun to just go back and kind of reminisce about some all-time Giants all-star game moments. And by all-time, I of course mean in my short lifespan. If anyone else who's listening has ones that I missed, feel free to let us know. We'll pepper them in at some point. But the first one that comes to my mind, if I go back as far as I can, is Barry Bonds getting robbed by Torrey Hunter in the, what was that, 02 year, and then immediately running out to pick him up and carry him around the infield on his way after the inning ended.
Yeah, rare moment of levity from Barry. So that was one of my childhood ones too.
Yeah, I mean, he hit an actual home run in that game, and I remember the robbery absolutely clearer than the home run.
Yeah, 100%.
2010, Brian Wilson, arguably at the peak of his powers, gets the National League out of a jam, goes essentially an inning and a half, and gets the National League a win, which, seems like it rarely happens.
There you go. It was a stretch there, and I know you're about to hit this, where you're all over the All-Star game.
The big one is 2012. Back when winning the All-Star game got you home field advantage in the World Series, the Giants sent a huge cadre of guys to the game and basically won the game single-handedly. Matt Cain started the game from the National League, got the win, shut out the American League. Melky Cabrera won All-Star Game MVP, a month before vanishing from the face of the earth, getting popped for steroids. Pablo Sandoval hit a big triple or a home run off of Justin Verlander a few months before he was going to face off against him in the World Series.
I just remember the voting for that one, and the Giants were everywhere.
Yes.
It's weird now that we don't even, you look at the first round of ballots and you go, okay, we're done here.
Not even mentioned.
Louise, the 19th outfielder.
Yep.
It's over. But there was a time where they would run actual campaigns for their players.
Mm-hmm.
And Buster had 7 million votes. That's my main memory from 2012 is how much voting took over at the ballpark for weeks.
Giants players either scored or drove in 7 of the 8 NL runs. Just single-handedly did it. And for everyone who was at Oracle Park for Pablo Sandoval hitting 3 home runs off of Justin Verlander, that was made possible by the Giants winning the All-Star game and getting home field advantage.
What a time to be alive. That was 40 years ago.
Yeah. And then I wanted to pepper it a little more. I completely forgot Johnny Cueto started an All-Star game.
I always forget that as well because I think of Bumgarner when I think of that year.
Yeah.
Johnny was incredible in the first half.
He was lights out. And then obviously before my time, but you got to shout out Willie Mays. Ted Williams famously said they invented the All-Star game for Willie Mays. Basically, everything he did every year was
yes,
incredible.
Times have changed.
Times have changed. All right. We have mailbag questions from listeners, and we're going to preview the Giants heading to Seattle. But first, Giants Talk is presented by Mancini Sleep World. A good mattress can improve your posture, reduce back pain, and even help with allergies. Studies show that getting a great night's sleep improves mood, memory, and productivity. A trip to Mancini Sleep World can set you up for your best rest yet. Stop by or visit sleepworld.com to see what's currently available. All right, Alex, got some questions from listeners here. If you're listening to this, as always, feel free to send your questions to Alex or myself wherever you can find us on social media. We'll add them to our collection and address them at a relevant time. Our first question is from Katie. Katie asks, what is the media coverage of draft day like for members of the organization, drafted players, and reporters? Does the Giants PR team help facilitate interviews with the draftees, Buster and Michael Holmes? Lots of fans want to get to know our top draftees right away.
I like the media questions. Yeah, they brought Michael Holmes up to the press box both days right after the draft. Jackson hopped on a Zoom with us during the game on Saturday, which was funny because there was some crowd noise in the back. And I'm explained to him, your future manager is getting ejected right now. He was trying to figure out what he was hearing. in his headphones. And then there's no Buster. One thing I do want to reiterate, which I think we talk about a little bit, the draft is really heavily focused on Michael Holmes and his group. And when it's, I see memes of people when they're excited, they're like, Buster's cooking. And I'm like, it's Michael Holmes and his group who are doing this. So now the flip side of that is you also take the poor picks. Like those are mostly on you as well. But if you're happy about the draft, it was his group, the amateur scouting group. So he comes to represent him. And, Buster says that as well. He said that on this podcast a week ago. So we did that. And then they haven't done this the last couple of years. There's been some, I think Gavin might've been rehabbing last year. I don't know what happened with James Tibbs, but traditionally we get the guy at Oracle Park and they kind of do a whole, they do a regular interview in the dugout with everybody. They sit in the owner's box, maybe take BP if they're a position player. They go in the clubhouse, they go meet everybody. So that's always fun. And that's when I have photos of like Elliot Ramos at 17 years old sitting in the dugout meeting for the first time. So they'll do that at some point. I assume Jackson is literally across the bridge and we can do that late in July.
That's an easy one to set up. We'll be on Jackson Flora watch, ready to see that happen. Next question is from Craig. Craig asks, is it possible that the rule preventing the Giants from picking in the top 10 next year could be revisited this offseason during the collective bargaining agreement negotiations?
Very good and interesting question. It is possible. It is something they're hopeful for. It's one thing you and I talk about a lot when people ask about like qualifying offers or this or that. And it's like, this is all going to change, but this all could change.
Yeah.
This offseason. And this is one possibility, is that rule gets tweaked. The Giants are going to be heavily in favor of that because they'd like to pick in the top 10 when they're one of the worst teams in baseball. So it is possible. I don't know how likely it is, but it's been discussed.
Yeah. Joey says there's been a lot of talk about the front office's shortcomings when it comes to free agent decisions, read the bullpen, general lack of quality and experienced arms, not re-signing Tyler Rogers. While their lack of talent acquisition isn't defensible, have we considered that they did their due diligence in that area, but guys just didn't want to sign with the team? I feel like a lot of the blame is put on the front office for not signing guys, but it takes two to tango. What if Rogers didn't want to come back?
The Rogers case, I think, was financial for the most part. He didn't want to talk about it when he was here with Toronto, when reporters went up to him, which is natural. But I do think there is something to this, and it's something I talked about a bit in the offseason, which was they did not really like this free agent group. And especially pitching-wise, they just didn't really like the guys. And I know the next question we have in the mailbag hits on this as well. But they didn't love that group. They didn't feel like a lot of those guys were worth that money. And look, everyone makes the Edwin Diaz jokes, which is, I don't think that was a great soundbite from Buster. He also has been hurt, and that could be a disaster of a contract for the Dodgers. Now, they still should have spent money on their bullpen, but that was part of this, is they just didn't like the class and didn't feel like spending on that group of guys. Now, yeah, there's a middle ground, but like you see guys like Weaver, and you're like, okay, there were guys you could have gone after who would fix holes here.
Yeah, and if the heart of this question is it that guys just don't want to sign with this team and it takes two to tango? I feel like we should just have a button here on Giant Stack that we can press that says guys will go where the contract is the biggest. The money is the factor.
And I generally say that with position players to kind of stop that whole, like, nobody wants to come hit here. Pitchers especially, like, want to come here. So
it's not coerce.
Yeah, they just weren't there with their contract offers, which, look, I'm sure they're sitting in their front office and saying a lot of these guys, they're like, nailed it on that guy. But the end result is their bullpen is horrible. And we are where we are right now.
And we're in full sell mode here mid-July. Kind of a follow-up, same general topic from scratch. Is it weird that we heard so much about Tetsuya Imai in the offseason and nothing really since then? This guy was touted to be the Giants' next Dodgers killer, just on the back of a highly viral quote. Yeah. And I think on that alone, Giants fans were convinced he was going to be a beast.
I mean, this would be at the top of their list of like, Giants thought he was a reliever, maybe. So they probably were right.
He is currently 5-4 with the Astros with an ERA above 6. But he did start a combined no-hitter in May, went 6 innings of that. So that's cool.
There you go. Yeah, this is one that there are a lot they got wrong, including with some of their own additions. This was one that their evaluation seemed like it was correct.
Yeah. Next question is from Curry Lee. Devers has been DHing more. Has that been addressed?
I asked Tony about this before the break. It's, they've been a little weird with what he's actually dealing with, but just generally there's been some discomfort still in his lower body. I mean, he had the hamstring in the spring, so that was part of it. Was why Bryce was starting at first base so often at the end of the first half, was just getting Devers off his feet a little bit. But I do think Eldridge looked pretty good defensively at first. Yeah. So curious what the actual, maybe we can do this at the end of the year, but second half, like it's pretty, they're both here. We've seen what they both can do at the plate. So what is the actual breakdown at first base over the next however many games they have left?
I would love to see them start forging him into a real playable long-term first base option instead of DH. He's got that range. They've got such incredible first basemen defensively in their history and in their organization who they could call on to assist. Obviously, they have Ron Washington. That would be great. That's one of the planning for the future things that I think they have to focus on, and just kind of break it to Devers. Like, sorry, get used to holding the bat.
Yeah, we could have put that on our list. I thought in spring training, Devers was pretty clearly the better defender. And now I think they're pretty even. So Bryce has come a long way.
Matt says, alert the research department. Someone needs to find out how many times Giants pitchers have allowed a home run in the first inning this season. I started noticing the trend fairly early in the season, and I mentioned it to my brother, as it seems like the only thing we commiserate about is our struggling sports teams. It evolved into me telling him via text every time it happens. Lately, it feels like I'm sending him a text more often than I'm not. Can you guys find out just how often it has happened, and if we're approaching some sort of dubious record? With all the team's many flaws, I feel like consistently being behind the 8 ball in the first inning has to be high up on the list of things that need to be corrected. Good thing for Matt. This is a very easy stat to look on One Baseball Reference. And you're not wrong. And this is something I've noticed too, is they get behind very early, and this is a team that doesn't feel built to come back.
Not like even some previous mediocre Giants teams had, a comeback gene, which would make the season seem more exciting than they actually were. Yep. They're not going to set a record, because if there is a record to be set, the Rangers are going to set it, because they're at 28. The Giants are tied for second at 23 homers allowed. Overall, 59 runs allowed, which is closer to middle of the pack than top of the league. But 38 runs scored, which is 29th. So they are behind the 8 ball quite often.
The splits that I looked up that I found extra fascinating were, of all the innings in the game, they give up home runs in the first inning twice as much as any other inning. 23 home runs in the first inning, as you mentioned. And I think there's a bunch of other innings tied for 11 behind that. So I don't know how you explain that. Maybe that's a league-wide thing, and batters just come out of the block or come out into the game full of adrenaline, swinging out of their shoes. But it is their second highest scoring allowed inning of the game this year, behind the 5th. And the 5th makes a lot of sense, being when the pitcher starts to run out of gas, see the order once again. But got to work on those first innings, because so often you look at a box score to summarize a series, and multiple of those games of that series will have a number there in the first.
Well, even like Sunday, it's like 2 pitches into the game.
Yes.
Like, okay, here you go. So
another one of these.
Yeah, easy one for the second half. Figure it out.
One more question, this one from Duncan. Duncan says, if Chapman were to be traded, could Devers move back to third to open up first base for Bryce? Also, given what you've said about Chapman's clubhouse leadership, who do you think is most likely to step in to fill that role if he were dealt?
John Shea talked to Scott Boras in Philly at the All-Star game, and he said trade's not on their radar at all, which obviously Matt Chapman has a no trade clause. And I don't think that's that surprising. It's early.
Well, also a question, is there any world where Scott Boras, of all people, says, yeah, he's my guy who holds all the power right now, is open to being traded?
Yes. So that's why I'm going to go. I don't think that quote is that surprising in that actual good job by John talking to him, but I don't think the quote is something we'll look back on is like, oh yeah, that was set in stone. I do think that's something they would take to him at the end of a process where they're like, hey, look, so and so made a really good offer. What do you think?
Yeah.
But I don't think that's going to be happening over the next few weeks. He's not even going to be ready to start the second half because of this injury. So I don't think he's going to be traded. Now, to the question of like the actual some of the logistics here, Devers is not moving back to third. We've seen him there for one inning since the deal. There was a reason the Red Sox moved him like a year and a half ago. So that's not happening. Casey Schmidt is awesome at third base. If there ever was a trade, you have your, potential Gold Glove winner at third base. Anyway, the leadership thing, I do think at some point this is just going to be Bryce Eldridge's clubhouse.
Yeah.
So, I not to just keep putting everything on his shoulders, the home run derby, this or that, but he sounds in every way like someone who wants that anyway. So, I do think at some point he's going to be there. It's going to take a while, but especially when this group that starts to come in behind him and he's no longer the baby of the group, like it's you've been there for 3 years and all of a sudden like other guys start to show up, it'll be his clubhouse.
Yeah, it's obviously Logan Webb's a different creature, just being a pitcher not on the field every single day of the year, because he's the only other candidate that really comes to mind. It's almost like there's going to be an internal clubhouse regime change very soon.
Yeah.
And Bryce makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Wow. It's just between, hey, this is our future home run derby candidate. He's going to run this clubhouse. He's going to start playing first base. Giants Talk's got a lot on the docket for our guy, Bryce.
A lot on. He said he wants to be the face of the franchise, and part of that goes with being clubhouse leader. And also that generally the best position player, it's the easiest one. Buster was the leader for a long time. Brandon Crawford was that way as well. So Brandon Belt became the captain. That's where this is headed.
Yeah. All right. There's our mailbag questions for the day. All-Star break is over. Giants are hopping on a plane and heading to Seattle. Alex, what are our pitching matchups at T-Mobile Field?
Nothing announced yet. Landon will start on Friday. Logan Webb is supposed to start on Saturday. We'll see the rest of this weekend. What it looks like, the Mariners are a game under 500. They're also the third wildcard team because the American League's weird. Julio Rodriguez, it's very strange. Julio Rodriguez was on the concussion IL. Sounds like he could be back on Friday. And then the other notable change with them is Cal Raleigh has been awful, weirdly awful.
Last year's home run derby champ, right?
And like, I would have voted for him for MVP. Has 9 home runs after hitting 60 last year. 581 OPS. So he's been really bad. The old Giants, we thought there'd be more of them because they made 17 trades. Them and Farhan. But Luis Castillo obviously once traded for Casey McGee. That one's been well run over.
Yep.
Old friend Buddy Kennedy is a Seattle Mariner. Old friend Connor Joe is in the minors. And then Will Wilson has had a lot of mentions on this podcast because the Zach Cozart trade was one of the most interesting ones they've ever made. And he did end up reaching the big leagues, just not with the Giants. So
all right.
They took on the Cozart money to get a first-round prospect. And he's not in the big leagues currently. He's hurt, but he is a Seattle Mariner.
Okay. Yeah. Connor Joe's the name that stands out to me there. So he's on the back end now. He's now in a minor league.
He is.
Okay.
I hope he gets called up because I feel like once a year I talk to Connor Joe and he's always with a different team.
Yeah.
So
yeah. One of those guys whose man cave has so many different jerseys on it right now.
It's going to be
all time.
Such a good man cave.
Yeah. All right. We like to do a feature starting recently where for fans traveling to Seattle for the away series, talk about some of the things to note at the ballpark, some of the foods to order, maybe some of the places around the ballpark as well. I haven't been to Seattle in ages. That's not true. I think I went in 2021, but it wasn't for a Giants game. And it was with some buddies and it was kind of blurry. All the main thing I remember this year is those steamboat fish and chips that went super viral. Are you going to get those, Alex?
Well, I think you can also get the chicken fingers in the steamboat, but you wrote here that someone called them the most disgusting thing I've ever eaten. So
I did my research here for Seattle's ballpark food, and someone on the Mariners subreddit said the chicken strips are the most disgusting thing I have ever eaten. She could not stress enough how much she said, do not get these chicken strips. That almost makes me think you have to get them, dude.
I'm gonna get them 100%.
When you get a review that bad, it shifts into the I gotta try this territory.
Reddit hates everything, so we're gonna be trying them. But I haven't been in a while. I'll be there this weekend, and if anyone has, I think I have like Saturday morning free. So any recommendations on like downtown Seattle, what I should do for 3 hours? Last time I did all that.
Don't you throw a big fish at the market there?
I did all that previously. So what?
Okay.
Anyone in listeners live in Seattle, like hit me up. Let me know what the non-super tourists do.
The other item I was curious about is I'm pretty sure they have the exact same crab sandwich as Oracle Park has. If not the exact same one, then like basically the exact same one. So I'm curious if that is as good and honestly what it is priced at compared to ours in San Francisco.
I will do all the research for you.
All right, good. I want to hear that. Well, let's get the second half started off with a bang as the Giants head to Seattle. No matter how the rest of the season goes, Giants Talk's going to be here to cover it all along the way. Thank you so much for listening all throughout the first half.
One thing for you.
Hit me.
While we were talking, Lance McCullers got traded from the Astros to the Brewers, which we don't care about. But there you go. It has started. So just a reminder, we are fully on emergency pod watch. Yep. And we'll be ready. And subscribe to the podcast. Follow us on social media. We'll be ready to go whenever something happens.
When the big move happens, Giants Talk will be here to cover it.
Or the little moves.
The little moves.